Uh, I'm from Portland. Grew up in Northeast Portland. A single family home, in and out of the projects. I was always a smart kid. I have smart brothers. We were smart people. And I had one good parent. And my mom saw that we were bright, and she just beat the bushes to find opportunities for us. She dropped out of high school to have my older brother and had this strange twist in fate to have 3 gifted children. And she fought for opportunities for us. I went to King Elementary School in Northeast Portland. I went to Harriet Tubman for middle school, and then got plucked out of the public school system as a part of a kind of an experiment to go to Catlin Gable. There were 7 of us who went. It was like the Little Rock 7. We walked through the back door of the building because we had to take the bus, and the bus dropped us off at St. Vincent's Hospital, and we had to walk through the back part of campus and up to campus. Yeah, I'll speak up. Sorry, the camera might just get ruined. But so I went to Catlin Gable for high school. Nobody on either side of my family had gone to college, and I was the first one to go. In my mind, when I went, I had Felicia Rashad from the Cosby Show. She was the only black female professional that I could identify with, and I thought that if I was a lawyer, then I would have a husband like Cliff, and have a house in Brooklyn, and a daughter named Rudy, and we'd sing songs on the stairs. So really, I was shooting for a comfortable life that wasn't itinerant. I moved probably every 8 or 9 months of my life until I got to college. In fact, the house that I bought when I took this job was the first time I've ever owned a house. So this, and I've lived in it for a year. And that's probably the longest I've ever lived somewhere. So I don't know what to say about that. But so went to college, did well. My great-grandmother, who moved our family here from Louisiana after one of my uncles was killed by a police officer in New Orleans, moved our family here, and she really wanted me to be a lawyer. At that time, she was probably in her late 60s. When I graduated from college, went into a career in underwriting. I went to Chase Bank to do corporate underwriting. So we invest in bonds. At that time, I was a young analyst in the commercial lending program. And my great-grandmother called and said, I want you to go to law school. And I was like, look, I'm a businesswoman. I don't want to go to law school. We went back and forth, and I went to law school. And I ended up going to Stanford for law school. And in all of my life, my mom really never pushed me one way or another about schools or opportunity, except for to push me forward. She didn't make decisions for me. But when I applied for Stanford, the only letter she's ever opened of mine was my admission letter to Stanford Law School. I went to her house, and she and my grandmother and my great-grandmother summoned me to her house and said, we need to talk, and the letter was there, and it was open. And they told me that when they made the trip from Louisiana by car in 1959, they crossed the southwest United States into California. They thought about staying in Long Beach and opted to keep going. And so they followed I-5 north, and my great-grandmother at the time wanted to see the Stanford Chapel. And they had just left the segregated South, right? So they lived in a largely segregated environment, so they all caravaned into Portland, and they wanted to see this church, and went to Palo Alto, and the Stanford campus welcomed them into church for prayer. And they had just left a pretty racist and segregated South. And that feeling of being in that church really imprinted on her mind, and she loved the campus, she loved the church. And so when I got into Stanford Law, she said, I don't care where else you applied, I don't care how prestigious you are, you're going to Stanford. I went to Stanford Law School and practiced for 8 years. I was a deal lawyer. I worked at the firm, like the show, the firm, that firm. I worked there, and I was that lawyer. Sally, you don't know this. Sally hired me, by the way. She's super fabulous. That my job was basically to be an M&A goon, so I marched around the world taking over companies, like hot jobs, and I did all of the acquisitions for Yahoo at a low cost ratio. So I negotiated deals for a living, and I was just that lawyer. And then I was headed toward being overweight with cats in a Porsche. Whoa, this is not Felicia Rashad's life. I didn't have Rudy, I didn't have the house. There was no cliff. None of it was fun, and I had to do an intervention in my life and let go of my child's fantasy of what life as a lawyer would be like, and focus on what I really wanted to do as a woman and as a leader. And so I decided to go back to business school, went to Stanford for business school. Turned out to be the best decision and most terrifying decision that I made. I was 32 when I went back to grad school, and my classmates were 24, and I was out of sync with them socially, and there were times when I was more like a mom. We'd be at parties, and I'd say, you know what, I know you've been drinking, but you really don't want him, don't do it. Just imagine me as your 35-year-old self. Don't do it. But I will say that experience really was wonderful, and it forced me to come to terms with my own power and my own ambitions, and have it not be a fantasy that, you know, I didn't owe anything to anybody, and at that point, life really took off for me. So from there, I went to New York, went to a hedge fund where I was hired to be the deal girl at the fund, and proved to be as good at that as I thought I would be, and was promoted to the C-suite. I thought at the time it was because I was smart. It wasn't. I discovered investors like to have a woman in a senior financial position at firms, because when things go wrong, it's usually the woman who's like, whoa, 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 like, cut it out, guys. And I got that opportunity. Some of it was because I was a woman, some of it was because I was smart, some of it was because I was a lawyer, and I knew that I wouldn't risk my license to lie, ever. And so they wanted to offer me the C position. I was like, well, fair trade, and I'm going to run with this as far as I can. So I did that for a few years through the downturn. Didn't make a lot of money, didn't lose any money either. And we sold the fund, and I had a 1-year non-compete. I came to Portland to hang out with my mom. I hadn't seen her in 20 years. I mean, you know, for more than a day or two. And came here and realized that these crazy people in this town with cats in a basket on a bike, you guys are my people. And all of a sudden, some of the confusion I had about, or disharmony that I felt about loving investing but being stuck in New York, it really disappeared. And just as I was thinking, well, maybe I'd like to stay, I met Sally. And I realized in meeting her that I had mastered the technical parts of my job, but what I really needed was to fly behind another woman leader who was different than me. Sally's really, really very different, and not just physically. Or maybe not. Maybe there's a middle-aged black woman fighting to get out. So, you know, she attracted me to this business, very different than what I did before. I've always worked at smaller places and really very flat institutions, so this is a very different kind of place. But what attracted me was the opportunity to really watch her in action every day, right, and see how she resolved issues and to come in contact with new people. And so I took the job, and now I manage the money. That's my story.